I will put this up on the site tomorrow. Right, so the session's been recorded. There is a little dialogue box for you to type questions in, but also you can switch, if you want to, you can switch your microphones on, and we can have a discussion a little later on. So the site is set out, we hope, fairly easy to navigate. There's a little bit about welcoming. So the course runs over 12 weeks. Your personal tutor is Sue, who we've already talked about, and she's the lady who's had her tiles delivered we were talking about earlier. This is your web-based introduction. She's available to you. She's already sent you a hello and her email contact, and she will be in contact with you throughout your module. And we've got some resources on the site. I'm going to run through them, and we're quite keen for you to make full use of them. So when you come into the site, there are some bits and pieces. There is a link, so that's a link to a YouTube video introducing the module and also walking you through the site, which is a bit similar to what I'm doing at the moment. If you click on this, it brings a little pop-out box, and I'm just going to make it larger. So this is our module reading resources and our digital library. So what we have here is a list of various books and journals or websites. Some of them are in the list that's in your handbook, but I add to them all the time, so there are other things and maybe newer things. The importance of this is a lot of these, as you will see, are online resources, which means this is a book, okay? And if you click on it, it will take you into the book and you can read that book online. Now, the university has a license for 20 people maximum using one of these books at any one time, and at the moment there are 150 people doing mentorship, various different modules. So if you go in and it's busy, you'll just have to, I'm sorry, you're going to have to try another time, but that's the maximum we get. So again, there are several books there that you can look at and have a look at and read into, and to say most of them you can read online. So moving on down, again we have got journal articles, and again this is the web link to the journal article, and so you can click on that and you'll have the whole article to read. And then again, similarly, you can click on to these, and there are many of them, and it will take you to the journal full text. Now you can download that or you can print off as you wish, but essentially the majority of the articles and journals that you might want to read to support your assignment are going to be here. So hopefully you can do that from the comfort of your home or wherever you may be. So please make some use of that. We have a library, obviously, which is also an electronic library, and you can again search journals in there too. This will take you to some general information, and if we go into the other thing that's here is little mini courses on how to do literature searching, how to study, and how to avoid plagiarism, which I'll talk about a little later on. But if we go into the library, you would go in here. She says hopefully it's all going to work for us, and there's further information here all about how to access the library resources, how to again do referencing, and how to enter the library and do searches through the library. So there's quite a range here on these resources. So I'm coming back now, and probably has skillfully exited us from, oh no, we're on to, again from the course, which would be just typical. Looks like I have. I'm going to have fun with this, so apologies again. I've come out of the mentorship course and I will have to find it once again. Always useful. You might see what I've done here is you might want to do this, is I've actually saved the mentorship course to my favourites, which means I can, at a click, just go straight into it. and I did that by just adding it to my favourites here, which is highly useful when I'm doing the web course. Here we are, we're back again. So that was the library. Now, sometimes when you're not on a Plymouth site, you might be asked for a password to get into the reading list, and if that's the case, it's all here for you how to do that. We also have a mentor centre which has lots of information about mentoring on, and whole detailed range and raft of things. So from how to maintain your mentor centre, what mentoring is about, what the roles are, all about assessment, how to give feedback, how to manage poor performance, how we do quality monitoring, how to promote skills acquisition, facilitating learning, a whole range of things here. And we also have a link to do an online mentor update, which you can go in and do that and get a certificate of completing of an online update. So if the NMC requires you to update annually, and you can do that this way, and there's a bit in about having to do your update as part of the course. Please don't just go in and do the update. Please have a peruse of things here. Over the next week or so, we're going to put some more stuff in there which will help you do the quiz as well, some little bits, extra bits of information, but there's a lot there. Everything you'd want to do the quiz is here, but obviously there's a lot of buttons, but we're just going to do I'm just going to do a summary recorded PowerPoint which will be on there. So that's the Mentor Centre. Okay, so for you, hopefully you've, this is the course handbook, and you can just go in again and you can download that and use that as your Bible guide for the course. I'm going to be going over what the course requirements are in a second, and that's all part and parcel of what's in the content of that. So that's the next button. So then following that, there's information about assignment, where you're going to find, again, little mini video on developing critical thinking and reasoning around writing, avoiding plagiarism. As I said, I'll talk about that. How to do Harvard referencing, which is required for your assignment, and also how to submit your assignment on the date, and I'll go through that again in a minute. And also the assignment tutorial I'm going to go through with you, this is narrated, so you can listen to it, play it and listen to it on headphones, and as I said, listen again to what's required for your assignment. This is this is an outline of how we give you feedback, what we do when we assess your work, and that's a guidance again on how your work is assessed. So that's quite an important button for you to get yourself familiar with. Now here we've got some examples of previous students' work. Students have kindly allowed us to put examples of good essays on here. Obviously they are here and we know the content of them, so you know, if anybody is so silly enough to copy them, then you're going to get yourself into a sticky situation with us. But examples to give you an idea of how work's structured. If any of you here today that are going to do masters, on the masters website there are masters essays. Here we're on the degree website, there are degree essays here, so again previous students' work to help you. Some of you might want to look at being sign-off mentors, and there's some information around that here. So finally you're going to submit your assignment here, and what you would do is click on the submission, and the date is the 10th of April before 4 p.m. and it's all set up for that. If I click on it to show you, it's going to show you the screen that I have to set up the assignment. When you go in, it will ask you to click a button to declare that this is your own work, and then you literally and it'll give you instructions to upload it, which you would drag and drop or do as an attachment. It's fairly straightforward, but if you're worried, again, there is information about submitting the assignment through Moodle, but it is fairly straightforward. Sue will be on hand if any of you have any problems or situations don't seem to work or you can't get into the system. Please don't panic if you're trying to submit and it's not working, because Sue will be able to guide you. Please don't get into sticky problems. Systems go down from time to time. It has happened, but only once, where it wouldn't accept students' assignments, but please don't panic. Let us know, rather than me or Sue open an email saying, I've tried 8 times all night and I can't do it. As I say, it's only happened once to us, so hopefully all will be well for you. So at this point, has anybody got any questions that they want to ask? Because that was quite speedy. So what I've done is I've walked you through the site. We've had a look at some of the stuff that is there. And now I'm going to move on in a minute to talk to you all about the assignment that you're required to do. Nobody's saying anything, so I'm hoping all is okay. As I say, you can type in questions, and please do that as you go along, or as said, you can speak on your, if you can, or you can email us afterwards if there's anything that you come up with and said, oh right, thanks Emma. Emma's okay, that's good news. Right, I'm going to now, so in the assignment information is a PowerPoint assignment tutorial. I've already downloaded it, and that's what I'm going to run through for you. So if when you run it and you want to listen to it, again, you need to make sure you've got the volume on, and as soon as you click the button to do the display, it will automatically run, and you will hear me speaking again. But this version, whoops, that's me jumping or pressing buttons before I get carried away. Excuse me for that. So I'll go back actually. Right, so here we go. So over the next 12 weeks, moreover, it's a little bit less because you officially started last week. You want to start some reading, start thinking about what you want to write about, run your ideas past Sue, and just start to think about planning time for you to write and time when you so that you don't do it all the last minute, but everybody always does that. We totally understand how difficult it is. You're all working to actually combine a bit of study with work, and we all know what it's like. You're sitting and you think, right, I'll do it today, and you get started, and then you can't think, well, I'm a bit stuck, and then suddenly the big pile of ironing looks highly attractive, or the garden shed to clear out, or all those sort of things, and we do understand that it is quite difficult discipline. What I will tell you is that for those, we've been running a distance learning module for 2 years, and for those people that do the distance learning module, we have a very, very high pass rate. We have a 98%, 95%, 98 to 98.5% pass rate. Very few people struggle to do it. It is a struggle, but most people do well. So what I need to just start off by saying is that it's really important to maintain anonymity and confidentiality in your work. We don't need to know where you work, the names of your colleagues. If you're going to be writing about an interaction of mentoring with a student, whoever that might be hasn't actually given permission to discuss them in your assignment, so you mustn't use their names. So what we highly recommend is that you state at the very beginning, for the purpose of the assignment, I have given people I'm going to talk about pseudonyms. I will call them Joe Blogs. This meets both our governing body, our Nursing Midwifery Council, requirements to maintain confidentiality, and also university regulations, and you will get a 0 if it looks as if you're talking about things. If you want to put in context where you work, for the purpose of the assignment. All you would need to say is, I work in a community team, I work in an acute hospital in cardiology, or I work on a surgical ward, or I'm a community nurse, or any of those kind of things. So it's okay to say that, but that's all we need to know. We don't know to know where that your place of work is. So what I need to say here then is, if you're doing the degree, we expect you to make your essay 2,000 words, and it's expected that you keep as close to that 2,000 as possible. You will receive a 5% penalty for going over. Okay, if you're going to finish the sentence with 3 or 4 words, then that's acceptable, but it is one of the skills that we assess. If you're doing the Masters, it's 4,000 words to enable that deeper exploration. So we're asking you to critically reflect and evaluate your performance as a mentor. This must centre on the module learning outcomes and your relevant professional standards. Now, the relevant professional standards, Nursing and Midwifery Council standards to support learning and assessment in practice. If you're a healthcare profession, it's the education standards, and this is exactly what we want to see. And we need to be very careful that we see that threaded throughout, and this is very clearly iterated in your handbook and in the feedback that we give you. So this is a little bit about your word limit. I've just been talking about. It is an important part of your assignment criteria, and again, if you exceed your word limit, we're guided to deduct 5%, which is a shame. If you're struggling, and some people do, I've got too much, then we can have a look and give you some idea of how you're doing, and give you some guidance around that. That's not a problem. Now, we talk about writing in the first or third person. They're academically both acceptable. It is a matter of your personal choice. Third person is the author, and author said this, or the author considered, or the author and the student work together, and that's okay if that's how people are comfortable. However, it is a bit more modern for thinking that people actually write in the first person. So together we did this, and I discussed that. But be very careful of writing too many "I did this" and "I did that" stuff, because it then starts to translate into what appears to be what we call like Janet and John writing. So you've got to think about it and think about how you do that. And again, if you're worried, just give Sue a shout and she'll give you some guidance. Now, what you can do is you can click on here, and this takes you just to some of those guidance about reading, critical reading, and writing academic essays and writing for academic assignments. So again, do make use of these things. And again, there are some more guidance on reading and writing academic study. Again, you can click that link. So back to our reading, we've had a look at the electronic reading resources that are available to you, and we're just suggesting, obviously you've got to think about structuring and planning it. And it is so easy when you're reading an article to think, oh, that looks interesting, I'll look at something else. Typically, if you're looking if you're doing a literature search, if you're searching a library database, you think, oh, that looks interesting, and next thing is you're reading something that is interesting, but actually it's nothing to do about mentoring. And just, you've got to be thinking about it. Look for the key words, look for what you're specifically looking at, and also look at the way the articles are written, because this actually is a good guide of how to write academically, how to present things, how to put citations and references in, all helpful to you. And of course, again, don't forget you've got the examples of previous students' work that you can, sorry, I've jumped 2 slides, somehow manage that. So let's talk about referencing. I've just mentioned it. So this is why we expect referencing.
It's about building your academic assignment on a body of work, the relevant work, and recognised people who are writing about mentorship. And it also enables readers to look at where you've got your ideas from, and it also gives credit to those people to show that you are building that work from an established respected body of literature. Now, I know I've kind of hinted at plagiarism a couple of times, so I'm now going to talk about it. So your work is run through an automatic plagiarism detection software, and plagiarism is about, so if we go on to the next slide, we'll talk about, again, about your citations and a reference list at the end, and I've already said about using Harvard system, and there's some more guidance on the website about that. So to avoid getting muddled, hopefully the handbook guides you, but again, please ask your tutor, ask Sue for some advice if this is an area of your weakness, if you're not quite comfortable or confident. Right. Emma's asking how many words, how many references for 2,000 words. So how many references for 2,000 words? Well, it is a little bit about how long is a piece of string. There is so much written about mentorship. The more references that you use strengthens your work. However, we wouldn't expect less than 10, but that's, and if you look at the examples, you will see that there's a wide range. So that's for your 2,000 words. For masters, you're expected to read everything on the topic, and you're expected to have really in-depth, and so we are expecting a big range of literature. Sorry, it's on an automatic move on, so I do apologise for that. Lisa's asking us a question. Let me just do that. Confidentiality disclaimer in the word count. No, you can put that in at the beginning. You can put that in the beginning on a separate page, and then go into the essay on the next page, and that way your confidentiality disclaimer is not included in the word limit. That's absolutely fine. So I want to talk about secondary referencing, and this is referring to a source that's being cited in a piece of work you've read. It is expected that you actually read the original work. So you may well read something written in one of the articles, and secondary referencing says Joe Blogg said cited in something or other. Well, that tells us that you've read it, but it doesn't tell us how you've interpreted that and what it means to you, what it means to your reflections. So avoid that. Now, similarly, quotations is exactly the same thing. Again, it illustrates your work, but it does not tell us how you're interpreting what you read, which is crucial at this time and this level of study, both degree and again, if you're not sure. Sue's sitting there thinking, yeah, God, she's going to say it again. I'll say it. But that's what we're here for as personal tutors, is to do that. So I'm now going to talk about the plagiarism that I've been talking about all this time. So plagiarism is classed as copying without acknowledgement. There are several types of copying without acknowledgement, and this is sometimes due to academic naivety, that you're not writing things in your own words, that you're using other people's work, but are actually using their words as it's written. As I said, our plagiarism detection software will pick that up. So if you're taking large chunks from things that you've read, it's considered not to be academically kosher at all, and it's actually classed as academic dishonesty. So please don't fall into that pitfall. The other thing is, we have had people that have had colleagues, and it's very nice to, if a colleague shares an essay, a mentorship essay with you, all well and good, because it'll help and guide you, but we have had people that have copied large chunks of other people's work, and also part of the detection software refers to anything that's been submitted. It will also match with that as well. Now, there is another one which is called contract plagiarism, and it's paying for an essay to be written. There are several websites available that will advertise that they'll write your assignment for you, and that they have mentorship assignments in their bank. And I'm afraid we've just had a student who's just owned up to copying an essay from one of these websites, which is classed as academic dishonesty. So I'm just warning you. The other thing is, you kind of think, the other thing is people do sell mentorship essays on eBay. I have seen it, and for as little as £5, which is a bit of a shame that they think it's only worth that, but that's another story. So I just need to draw your attention. If it is suspected, you're awarded a 0. It is formally investigated. We have an academic offences board, but it also calls into an individual's professional integrity into question, and both by your employer and the professional regulatory body. And again, you know, we do notify employers if this is, you know, is confirmed. So we don't want anybody to fall into any of those pitfalls. And if you're thinking of getting your mate to write it, then just be careful. If you want to learn more about plagiarism, also about converting what you read into your own words, there's some guidance and guidelines here, really good and really useful. Emma's got another question about referencing. Please type it in. Oh, hello Emma, I have to read, she's written in. Well done Emma, she's typing well there. If we interpret a reference into our words, do we reference in the usual way, indicate, yes, you would, to indicate where it came from? Yes, yes, absolutely yes, because that will strengthen your work. It will show that you've read something and you've interpreted it, and it really strengthens the academic standard to which we will be evaluating your work totally. So I'll just repeat that for everybody else. If you interpret a reference in your own words, do you reference it in the usual way and to indicate where it has come from? Definitely. The skill is taking what they've said and rewriting it in your own words without losing essence. That is the academic skill. So yes. Okay, so let's talk about writing reflexively. Quite a lot of people will have sort of come up through academic study and having used reflection, and of course for revalidation the NMC is requiring reflection quite a bit, so it's very much flavour, but it isn't necessary to use a reflective module. You can critically reflect on your mentoring without it. Some people find it hampering. A lot of people will use GIBs as well, for example, but some people don't. But if you use a model, don't tell us, just say, for the purpose of assignment, I'm going to use Gibbs or Johns' model. Please don't discuss the model. It's a pitfall some have fallen into, talking about what models are all about, because you're using your words up on that and you're not talking about mentoring, and you're going to, you know, fall into a big hole if you're not careful. The thing is, with a model, it asks you to describe something, describe what happened. So be very, very careful here that this needs to be very minimal, because your academic marks are awarded for your analysis and your interpretation of what the situation is. So please don't write conversationally descriptive, and then we did this and when we did that and I did this, that and the other. People can also fall into the pitfall of writing descriptively and not looking at bringing in the evidence to support points that you want to make. So please avoid it. I can't emphasize that enough. That's the biggest pitfall people fall into. It's all about the analysis, and you know, description is just something for you to hang on your analysis of mentoring. And as I said, I'm going to refer you back to looking at the previous students' work and look how they've actually done that and how they've done their critical reflection. So we want to know the interpretation. We want to look at the literature to see that you're linking the body of evidence. If you're using a model, but actually we are expecting you to conclude with recommendations for future practice, some people do this really well, and some people just said, well, my mentoring will improve because of it. But actually, we want to see more than that in your reflections. As I said, I'm sorry, this is on a move on. So what I'm saying here is make some recommendations for practice. We are looking for that, and you can make recommendations for your own practice, or if you feel that you've identified that there's things could improve in the practice of mentoring per se for the profession, then please get that in as well, and that's fantastic. And certainly if you're doing it at Masters, we expect you to make recommendations for professional practice in mentoring. So let's have a look at critical analysis. What do we mean by that? So it's evaluating and judging things. It's merits and deficits. It's the fors and against. So what are the good things? What good things aren't so good, and what could be done? And you'll find that in most of the articles you'll read. If it's any research articles, they've done some research because they feel there's an area that needs to be explored. And again, there's research being done all the time in mentorship. The most recent research that's been published is all about how students can manipulate their mentors. And the ways in which they do that. It's one of the reference articles, so please read it. It's very, very, very interesting. And they've talked there about how mentors can be manipulated by students to give them good marks when actually maybe they're not so good. So that argument, so introduce arguments, so that is an argument for you, that students, it has been found that students can manipulate their mentors by being over nice to them, giving them presents and gifts, or manipulate them by being very upset and tearful and all that kind of thing. And they explored that and looked at the whys those things happen and how they happen. And again, underpin it to demonstrate your reading. So that's analysis. Oh, I'm sorry that's moved up, but so we want a formative value. We want to assess you formatively, give you some feedback. So we want a draft outline of around 250 words. You can do this and send it. So we want you to email your draft outline to Sue. You've got her email address. What you're exploring, what professional standards you're looking at, and maybe some of the literature you're thinking of using. Now, we can look at your draft up to a week before hand-in. We found since we've introduced this, we've been able to set people onto the right tracks, and people have done well. Now, some people will do this, but some people also share the first page of their work or a section of their work, say, how do you think my writing is the standard, my academic standard, good enough? So you can do either of those things and you will get some feedback on that. We kind of expect people to do this approximately six weeks into the course, but some people want to get on early or have some holiday time or that kind of thing, but 1 week before hand-in is the latest we're allowed to look at work. And the reason for this is if you send in a formative draft 1 week before hand-in and it's a dog's dinner and it's like only 1 week and there's an awful lot of work that you'll need to do to change it, it isn't going to help you at all whatsoever. So please, please use that. We have time built into this. Sue has time built into this to be able to support, read your work, give you feedback. And because we do it electronic by email, and one of the things we do as tutors is when we're looking at formative work, we are very responsive, and you will get a response within 24, 48, 36 hours. We will be quite quick at giving you a response, so that helps you get on the tracks and move forward. And we'd rather you do that than feel you're getting stuck in problems and in difficulties. So, oops, sorry, jumping around there. Sorry about all the jumping around. So what to do if you get stuck? There's always these kind of things. Probably the best advice I would give to somebody is to stop, go and do something else completely different, and just come back to it later or another day. Go and clear your heads. But some of the things you can do is do some free writing, just blurt everything out on paper and try and think what you're doing there. maybe go for a run around the block or whatever, and say do that big pile of ironing, but maybe do a map, plan your way forward. Some people work well by doing spider diagrams. Some people then do things on post-it notes and move them around to prioritize it. Maybe just go and think of something to pep you up. Go and have a chat with a colleague. Talk to them about what you're doing and see if there's any ideas that they come up with. And the other thing, of course, is contact Sue with specific questions. There is support available through the university, and it is on the site there for people. It's called Learning and Development Support. That you can access that for support and looking at what you're writing, and you can actually send samples of your work to ask them if they would tell you if you're writing critically. All those little videos that we've got available to you on how to do critical analysis, how to set out essays, how to write assignments, all those kinds of things are available to you, and that's absolutely fine. But there's some hints anyway when you get stuck. So you've got to meet the module learning outcomes, otherwise you don't pass. And the module assessment is you've got to critically reflect on mentoring. You've got to relate it to the mentoring standards, and we expect you to use contemporary literature to support it. It does say there are guidelines in the handbook on how your work graded. That is correct, but also we have some grading information as well for you. Now, those of you that were listening when I checked with Sue your hand-in date, and I've gone over with it for you. Be sure you know your hand-in date. I will remind you before we finish. And your results are between 4 and 6 weeks after the submission date. You'll submit it electronically, and we share marking, and we also moderate each other's marking, so we compare our marking with each other, and this is what takes the time to read it all and also compare how we mark with each other, so that our students have consistency in the way in which we assess. Things can happen to people it does say portfolio, but actually we mean essay. Some things happen in people's lives, or some people become sick. Quite often we've had people on the course who've changed their job and everything. You can apply for extenuating circumstances. There is a form that you have to fill in, and we'll provide you that. We also need corroborative evidence, so maybe if you're sick, it's a copy of your sick note, or a short statement from your manager confirming that due to work pressures, due to personal circumstances, or due to sickness, you're unable to complete by the deadline. There are two types of circumstances that you can apply for. The first one is for a late submission, that you're nearly there but you're not quite, things have got in the way, and that's a 10-day from the hand-in date. You can apply for a late submission if you just need to finish that off, and I've had a couple of students just this week who have done that and have submitted. Or you can postpone it until after the exam board, and I'll tell you when that is, and it gives you some time. So your work's going to come in April, the exam board is in June, so if you postpone your submission from April, your work will be June. So you'll be expected to submit sometime in August, so it actually buys you some time from April to August, and we ask you to stay in touch with us. If that's the case, just talk to us. We'll explain all the processes, and we'll explain what it all means and what happens. But we do want you to think, it takes the break, it takes the pressure off, it takes your foot off the accelerator, and if you've got things going on that are interfering with your ability to study or complete the assessment, and we'd rather that you asked us and contacted Sue than not submit, which would be a real shame, because sometimes just given that extra time, people can move on from wherever they were and get the work done, and that's great. Please, ask questions. This is a distance learning course, so a lot of it is about your self-motivation and organising yourself to do it all, but please contact Sue for any questions or queries, and she will come back to you and help you and guide you. We'd rather you do that. Think, well, that's it. Now what am I going to do? It's really important that, as I said, it's a distance course. The resources and tools are there for you, but what you need to do is to use those, ask your questions, and get it straight in your head what you want to do and how you're doing. There's opportunities for feedback on drafts of your work, how you're doing, what you're thinking, where you're thinking of going, and as I said, there's a lot of little bits and pieces. So I'm coming back to the assignment information, some guidance on these things, and again how to submit, and the assignment tutorial I've just gone through is available to you to sit and listen. This is information on what we look for and what feedback we give you are the things that we're looking for in your essay. And if you're doing masters, there's a little bit more about reading, studying and assignment writing at masters level on the end of the tutorial. So I'm going to say now, if anybody's got any questions, then please ask. Sue, is there anything you wanted to add to what I've been saying?
No, absolutely not. Just to reiterate that, you know, if I know there's a problem, it's sooner rather than later. And also the fact that I will endeavour to turn everything around within about 24 to 48 hours is my normal.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll find us very responsive people, and we're very kind, and we want to help you, and we want to get you through it, because essentially what you've done is you're coming onto a course because you have experience of mentoring, and what this is doing is formalising your experience into getting a mentor qualification with academic credits, which is all well and good, and that's really great. So I'm just going to wait a minute or two just in case somebody's furiously typing questions. But again, you know, you might go away and think an email Sue and say, oh, Adele said this but I wasn't quite sure. You know, that's what Sue's there for. That's what we're paying her for, to be there for you. So please make use of it. She gets paid whether or not you contact her. But it's you know, that's what it's about. That's what it's about, distance learning, and you know, it's nice to have a chance to talk to you. As I said, if you haven't going to ask any questions now, there may be things you think of. Right, so I'm going to look at the list of the questions. There's one or two here. I'm just going to run them through. Right, sorry. Right, Emma, you've asked to go back to the referencing bit. That was I probably was a bit short on that. So in terms of doing references, it's one of these mysteries that people find tricky. Some people find they get in really well. So what we're expecting is that what you're reading, you're interpreting your own, so putting it in the work, and that you have citations. So Joe Bloggs said, or you know, mentoring is the most wonderful thing in the world, in brackets, to, you know, the name of the person who said that and the date, and then the reference goes in at the end. Please look at the little video on Guide to Harvard Referencing that we have on the site, and that will help. And then please, if you find it a complete mystery, do ask Sue. Okay. Yeah. So Sue's email, hopefully you've got it all, susan.toos@plymouth.ac.uk. She's put that in there to remind you. How many submissions can you send? Technically, the university is guides us that we look at one piece of work, your formative assessment, and or one page of your writing. So you may have a certain part of your essay that you're having trouble with, and you can send that. In mentorship, what we tend to do is, if what you send us is completely awful, We will give you feedback. We will always give you feedback on how well you're doing and give you pointers. Maybe you could think about this, or maybe you could do that. But if it's really awful, what I would do is say, here's what I think needs to be done here. When you've rewritten it, please, I will have another look for you. If things, we'd rather do that than give you guidance and you still go away and write a dog's dinner. So officially, it's only one. But if things are really bad, and when Sue does that, she will say to you, she will clearly say, most of the time we're saying, this is really good, you're on the right lines, you might want to think about this, or you might want to look at that, or whatever, good luck. Or actually, you're completely off track, you're not clear about what you're saying, and it might be valuable that you rewrite this and I make some suggestions and it comes back. But let's say officially we're only allowed to do one. Yeah, so the 250 word one, yeah, you write it and get feedback. Okay, I'm just reading what people have been writing. Okay, it looks like you're all feeling reasonably okay and happy. Thank you very much for participating, even if it is mostly silent. I'm going to stop recording this